All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the MSP Success webinar series. We've got a great session lined up for you today here. We've got Cam Roberson from Beachhead Solutions. He's the VP of Sales and Marketing at Beachhead, been there forever, been in the channel forever. And what he's going to talk about today, and I know, Cam, you've got a special guest on this webinar as well
Surprise
here,
guest.
surprise guest. Is an approach to selling a secure, complete, highly profitable security stack, security solution, how to overcome those objections, how to make sure that you've got this so that as an MSP, that you've got, as it says on the screen here, you've got improved MRR, you've got margins, you've got better sleep knowing that your clients are secure and you're secure as well. And we've got a ton that's packed into this webinar here. Get your pen and paper out. You're going to have a lot of things to write down on this, a lot of things to learn off of this as well. And Cam, I don't want to take up any more time, so I'm going to pass it right over to you.
I very much appreciate that, and thank you to all who are attending. When we do these webinars, particularly with peer groups and organizations such as Robin Robbins, we're often asked to provide something of value and not just to overtly pitch our product. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to partner with all of you. We have over 50 Robin Robbins members who are partner MSPs of ours, and there's certainly room for more. But I wanted to really take that to heart and find some topics that were of value to you. And in particular, with respect to the sales conversations that you have. And I've brought and invited a special guest that I'll introduce here very shortly that is an expert in the sales process and can really, I believe, help. And so I'll do that here momentarily, but I wanted to share with you an observation that I have in my dealings with several hundred of our partners. And that is that those MSPs that are most successful generally have a control of the sales process, and they have a stack of services that they use to make a commitment to their clients. Their commitment is that we're going to provide you with tremendous business continuity, productivity, compliance if that's appropriate, and security. And our stack of services is to assist us in providing that value to you. The stack is not negotiable. They basically say this is our offering and there's no derivations of that. If you want to negotiate and have fewer services, quite frankly, we're not the MSP for you. Now, that's an enviable position. It's not for everybody. But on the entirely other end of the spectrum, the client controls the conversation. And I suspect that a great many of you have seen these sorts of objections. I hear of them through my MSP partners when it comes to particularly security services, security offerings. And the first is, either I'm not going to pay for it or I can't afford it. We hear this all the time. Matter of fact, last week, somebody told me they were presenting to a doctor's office. Imagine that. And they basically told him, we can't afford these things. Just prior to the doctor or head of the medical group getting into their Bugatti and taking off. So it's not that they can't afford it. They don't want to afford it. Many say they've never had a breach, or indicate that if they did have a breach, they might not even report it. Or I've never had a ransomware event. That's certainly something that would never happen to me because my business is just too small. I'm not of interest to the cyber criminals. I've never been audited. The Department of Health and Human Services hasn't knocked on my door yet, nor anybody else I know. nose door. I've never been presented with a supply chain questionnaire from one of my customers. You know, I've never been asked to prove security to these certain statutes. We don't have sensitive PII on our PCs and mobile devices. That happens quite frequently. And my all-time favorite is my employees don't make stupid mistakes. They don't click on things they shouldn't be clicking on. So you've probably seen many of these such objections. Our hope is to try to move away from this and to more towards the conversation where you own it. It's your stack and that you're promoting. So obviously, I want to partner with you. But when I was thinking about this presentation several weeks back, I was trying to build something that provided value. I happened to listen to a webinar presented by a colleague, a friend of mine, just about then, and realized her thoughts are very much aligned with mine about the sales process and about security in general. I've known her for many years. First with Jay Rydersey and his company Carver. She was working with Jay to build that company. Jay, prior to that, was one of our very first MSPs, also a member of Robin Robbins' organization. She has a very experienced perspective on the sales process and the MSP channel. As I mentioned, aligned with mine. And plus, she's a very nice person. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Bleem of MSP Sales Revolution.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cam, for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm glad to have you here too, largely because I think our thinking is very much aligned here.
Yeah, I would agree.
So as we think about the sales process, the conversation where the MSP controls things and has the ability to say, this is my stack, you'll make no faces, versus those where the the client is making all the decisions. How does one find themselves in that, situation where the client is basically saying, here's what we're going to do, here's what I'm going to pay, and that's just the deal?
So I believe it comes down to several factors, but the biggest being confidence. And so some of that is confidence in their stack or a lack of confidence. And so if they're not confident that they have assembled the ability to keep their clients and prospects safe from these cyber criminals, they're not confident holding the line and saying, no, I'm the thought leader, I'm the expert, because in their heart, they aren't confident in their expertise. They're not confident in the stack that they've put together. I also see on occasion, even still today, an uncertainty that cybersecurity isn't even really needed. And so there's a lack of confidence that they're selling something valuable. And then the third way that confidence plays a factor is simply a lack of confidence in their ability to sell. Some of these individuals can't sell managed services very well profitably, even when there are very great ways to sell it. And it's very valuable. It's easy to demonstrate increased productivity. Cybersecurity is a much more difficult sale. And so they're not confident in their ability to convince their clients and their prospects that it's worthwhile. So very, very often it comes down to confidence.
See, yeah. So, and the other thing is there's always this drive by the client to sort of try to get the price lower. And so it seems to me that there's an effort to commoditize the service on the part of the client, such that they're saying, you do, IT services, the guy down the street does IT services, there's no difference. So therefore the distinguishing characteristic or decision point is on the basis of price.
And it has to be. And I always say, I do respect the business owner who makes a decision based on price, because if I say I'm going to sell you this green M&M or this green M&M, and one of them is I'm going to sell it to you for a penny, and the other one someone wants to sell it to you for $1. Well, on the surface, they're both identical. So why in the world, from a entrepreneur standpoint, a business owner standpoint, would I pay $1 for something that I can get for a penny? And so, assuming there's a need and a desire for the green M&M, they're going to make the best business decision, which is the less expensive option. So if you can't differentiate your service, it absolutely becomes just a commodity, which is a race to the bottom. Price does become the only differentiator.
Yeah. So what you need to be able to do is put more colored M&Ms in that other thing, so it's clearly differentiable against the single green M&M.
Yes, totally agree.
So I you know, and it's a tough thing to do. I think I mentioned to you that I was not an MSP. However, I was a business owner, had an ad agency for many years. And one of the things that happened in my business, oftentimes when I gave a quote, you know, change to the website or some collateral or something of this nature, I would invariably be asked by this type of client, and we all know what type of client it is. Well, gee, all you have to do, Cam, is A, B, and C, which was a way of saying, you know, it takes no talent, it takes no creativity, there's no skills involved.
Right.
And therefore, and their ultimate objective, therefore, Cam, it ought to cost me less. And it was just, you know, and I see the same thing happening with MSPs. It's a tough position to be in, especially if you're trying to build your business. You're scratching and clawing, and you want to keep every possible client that you can. But sometimes, and I learned much later, maybe some clients need to go.
I would agree. And it is so demoralizing to the business owner when the prospect says, well, I talked to my brother's, you know, friend at work, and he said that security isn't that hard and I shouldn't be paying that much, you know, whatever that dollar figure is. And clearly the brother's friend is incorrect, but now you're being compared to a complete stranger. It's just a tough position to be in. And then I would agree, those are not the right kind of clients. Assuming you've done a decent job at selling and proving the value and explaining risk mitigation to the prospect, if they do not see the value and they want to argue with you, they're going to argue with you the rest of the relationship. And so if you've rescinded control at the very beginning of your conversation with them, and in a year you tell them they need a new server, they showed their true colors early on. They don't trust you. They don't believe you. They don't look at you as a thought leader. And so when you tell them they need a new server or a new firewall or new computers or whatever you want to do to help them upgrade their network or increase productivity or cybersecurity, they're not going to believe you then. So that's part of what I like about this community, is that they have figured out the lead gen mystery, that if they have enough leads coming in, they can afford to say no to these prospects that are not the right fit. Yeah,
that's a good position to be in, to be able to, you know, filter out those that are, because they're never the good clients. They're always the most trouble. And I know that you sort of have this sense also as the owner of the business. I know I did, where, you know, time is money, right? And if my guys were working on things, going the extra mile, no problem, do that for our good clients. But when there's a penny pinching client that squawks about every dime, you know, I don't want to go the extra mile for them. And I used to instruct my guys, have all those calls come through me, and, you know, so, and I've seen the same thing with MSPs. It's exactly the same. And it's a downward spiral, both in terms of moving your margins down, but also the relationship is never healthy under those circumstances, at least in my perspective. You know.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you move the margins down, and then what that means is that you either can't hire, you need a level 3 engineer, but you can't find a level 3 engineer. And so you settle for a level 2, or you can't find an A player. And so you settle for like a B or a B minus, and you hope to elevate them. And it just never seems to work out that way. Unfortunately, the B players are B players. They're generally not someone that you can elevate to an A player. And so then it's just a spiral downward, because you don't have the team that can deliver the experience you want to deliver, because your margins aren't such that you can hire the team. And so it's completely out of alignment with what you probably want to build.
Yeah, right. So the other thing that comes to mind there about that relationship, there are no gold stars either. I mean, in almost we had one end client, and we stay out of it as the vendor, but I witnessed one end client go from one MSP to the second MSP to the third MSP over the course of 5 years. And, I knew what that end client was like before the next guy. And if you think you're going to leave on good terms with a client like that, you're absolutely wrong. I saw the string. There was bad mouthing from, and it was all on the basis of price. It was all, your service is no different than the next guy's service, so therefore I'm going to pay the lowest price. As soon as they got a lower price, out the door they went.
Yeah, those bargain hunters, they aren't loyal. They are always looking for the next less expensive, the next cheap alternative. I mean, I guess the rosy side of that story is they all had that client had beachhead, so that's great. But at the same time, that doesn't help the MSP who is trying to grow their business and scale when they're dealing with cheapskate clients.
Yeah. And there's always the problem, or one of the problems I see is there's always somebody willing to accept that client with razor thin margins. And, I sort of, in my ideal world, I'd love to see there be no options for that kind of a client. You will get a minimum set of services, and that's it. There's nowhere else for you to go.
I love it.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem a bit like a pipe dream, but we are heading in that direction. I mean, there are certainly still plenty of the companies out there that don't take security seriously, and somehow they believe they can deliver security and managed services for $45 a seat. And so they're in every marketplace. It's unfortunate, but I am seeing a bit of a shift, especially among the MSPs that have peer groups and mastermind groups like Robin Robbins and others, that they are realizing, number one, security, it's mandatory. You have to have it. It should not be optional. And then it is absolutely something that you can sell, and you should be able to sell it at a very solid profit margin, and possibly even make up for some less profitable managed services that perhaps you did get stuck in that commodity trap over the last number of years. You can make up some of that margin with security. So it is getting better. MSPs do deserve to be paid what they're worth. And I am seeing a little bit of a changing of the tide as far as the ability to charge and to sell at what they should be selling at.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. It's certainly, if you've got the leads and have the wherewithal to be able to, sift through those guys and let them go to the wayside or go to some other provider, that puts you in a much stronger position, certainly. And I get it also that to get to a point where you can dictate your stack of services, that takes time. It also takes experience, right? I mean, I certainly would recommend you for coaching or any of your services to help them along that path. But, as you've told me before, it does take time. It does take practice to get there.
Yeah, definitely not an overnight.
Yeah.
It was a light switch, but it's not. It's a skill set just like anything else.
Yeah. Even with me and my agency, it took me a while. It wasn't worth the aggravation, but sooner or later, I learned that, firing some people was the best course of action for my you know, ability to sleep at night, you know, rather than being angry with somebody all the time. You know, it's not.
Sanity, yes, sanity is a beautiful thing.
Yes, yes. So if I may ask you, like, are there 1, 2, or 3 things that you could recommend that would maybe tactical approaches to moving somebody from this, you know, where the client controls the conversation, dictates based on price, to that other, you know, more enviable position?
Yeah, so I one of the things that I come across a lot is a a broken mindset when it comes to sales in general. And so a lot of MSPs will come to me and say, I feel like a slimy salesperson. I don't respect sales. I don't like sales. I don't want to be in sales. Perhaps it's the first position you want to offload and hire somebody to take this evil, awful thing off of your back. And I coach them through that because there's nothing wrong with sales. And if you're questioning whether or not you are a slimy salesperson, by definition, you have just proven that you're not, because a slimy salesperson does not worry about whether or not they're slimy. They don't go home at night and go, oh, I don't know, did I rip off that little old lady when I sold her the beater car? Like, no, they sleep like a baby. They can look in the mirror. And so if you're asking yourself questions like, am I a slimy salesperson? You just proved that you're not. So that would be number one, to really straighten out your mindset as it relates to sales, because sales is a wonderful thing, and you just need to learn to do it better. And then the second thing I would just say is to work on your confidence. And a great way to do that is to train with sales, to practice role playing with your peer groups. Confidence is huge, but you don't get confidence necessarily in the practicing. The practicing lets you feel comfortable actually jumping in and getting your feet wet. And it's when you jump in that all that practice comes back and the muscle memory kicks in, and you're not going to do everything perfectly, but you say, you know, I handled that better than I thought I would because of the practice. So gain the confidence, learn how to sell, learn how to overcome the objections that Cam talked about a few minutes ago, and that is what's going to help your confidence. That's my biggest pride and joy as a coach, is when my clients come back to me and say that they did jump in and they had a webinar, they had a one-on-one sales conversation, and they had the confidence to stand their ground and to say, no, this is what you need. Can you please let me help you? And that is a fantastic place to get to.
Right. Yeah, we're absolutely aligned. I you know, a full suite of services, of which I humbly believe that Beachhead ought to be part of, will allow you, through this confident presentation, to you know, distinguish your practice from just, you know, a commodity based on price. I think that, you know, as you say, you call it a race to the bottom. It's just, it's not healthy for anyone. Any other specific, you know, tips that you might be able to offer, a tactical approach, without giving away all your secrets here?
I have lots of secrets. I'm happy to give some away. This one I love. The next time that a major breach happens, whether it's global or nationwide, or even if it's just a breach in your town, watch what happens during that news cycle. So watch the blog posts that come out and the news articles and what's happening, you know, on the evening news. And it's not every time that you will see a public interest piece, but probably 2 out of every 10 of these breaches, you will see them interview the CEO or the VP or the practice manager, and they'll say, okay, it's been a week and a half, it's been 2 weeks. What is it like, you know, walking in your shoes? Your office is shut down, you know, maybe the FBI took your files. What is going on in your world? The stories that come out of that are absolute gold for you to share inside of your shock and awe boxes, integrate into your sales process. You can do Facebook Lives about those. And the reason that those stories are so powerful, number one, they're stories, and you can't argue with stories. There's a lot of psychology around using stories in marketing and sales. It's fantastic. But the second reason is that those actual things that happen to the small business, the implications of a breach, those are huge. And so those are the real life things that everybody listening to this training, we know those things intuitively, but your clients and your prospects don't. So I'm referring to things like, we couldn't bill. We had to track our time on a legal pad, which means that, next week or next month when we're up and running, I have to hire someone to put all of that data into our database. And because we're doing it manually, we're going to lose some of that data just due to human error. We can't answer our phones. We can't access files. We can't call our clients. And so those implications to a small business are exactly what you are trying to keep them from experiencing. And so you can very tactically put them in the situation as if them, the prospect, you can put the prospect into a situation where they're starting to feel the challenges, the anxiety that they would be going through if that was them. And so those news stories are absolute gold.
It's sort of helped them visualize the pain that will come.
Get them to feel it, right? Because 100% of every decision is made based on feelings, based on emotions, and then people back it up logically. So that's a great way to create the emotion inside of this sales conversation, the cybersecurity conversation.
Very, very good point. Very good point. So I kind of wanted to close this out by sharing this slide, and this was something that Jennifer sort of pointed me in the direction of, is to try to put this in the framework of a magic quadrant. And, where low risk is our objective. And a word that you used in your presentation, actually a phrase, conveyance of confidence, as being something that you need to be able to do, which is really, you called it owning your greatness earlier, and basically confidently promoting your service. In the lower left, where nobody wants to be, you've got the break fix. And I suspect all of you in this audience have moved beyond that, and maybe you still have some break fix, but that's the absolute worst, right? There's no preventative medicine in place. It's lowest margin. Each and every job is quoted out. And then you got our friends, the bargain hunters, who are going to make the decisions. They're going to own it. I'm going to decide. I know better than you. Probably a client type that we don't want in the long run. And then you've got the a la carte offerings, which I sort of put as where the MSP is saying, well, here's some options for you to consider, and you choose. And by and large, in most cases, the client is going to choose on the basis of price. They're not going to accept these if you simply give them the options and aren't able to convince them as to the reasons why. And so, as you look at this, we want people, as always, in the magic quadrant to be in the upper right-hand quadrant. And at the very top here, our full security stack are those in the enviable position of being able to say, look, this is our stack. This is what we need to confidently provide you with maximum continuity, fantastic productivity, security, maybe compliance, and you'll make no faces. This is it. Don't like it? There are other providers. Another decent option, and I suspect a great many of you have a minimum set of security tools in place. Perhaps you call it silver or ruby or whatever the case may be. But in that framework, you're at least giving, a minimum set of security services that you can confidently promote your own service. So this is where we want to be, certainly on the basis of client risk, but also, and this just changed subtly, your risk, right? In terms of, HIPAA high tech requires, you are by definition, MSPs are a business associate. So you're on the hook for many of the same security mandates as is your end client. You're also closing threat vectors that might harm you or your other clients. But look at service stickiness. If you are a commodity, it makes it very easy to move from one place to the other. Clients, in my opinion, don't decide that they don't want security, that they're going to leave to go, man, you never hear say, I wanted to get rid of security. Security is no good. So clients will stay with this service. The relationship is based on trust. It's a consultative sales experience. You are, the MSP is the subject matter expert when it comes to security. The relationship is just much, much better. And then finally, Jennifer made me put this in. This appeals to everybody, right? The financials. Down at the bottom, where the client is controlling the conversation and making all the decisions, it's always a razor thin margins, low MRR and no margin for error. Whereas in the upper right-hand quadrant, we have healthy margins, healthy MRR, and your books will look so much better. If you're at some point looking to retire or have your business purchased, this is where you want to be. So I wanted to close with that, Jennifer, just to sort of draw it all in. A full comprehensive security posture will help the MSP in so many ways, and it helps to distinguish their practice as well. Have I accurately or completely got this this message, do you think?
I do. I mean, that I love the Magic Quadrant idea, and I think everyone gets that conceptually, right? Okay, yes, everybody wants to be in that upper corner where their margins are not thin. They can build the team they want to. They can build the company they want to. So they sell or retire or shift into semi-retirement. And it's definitely the direction that the most mature MSPs are getting to, because people are realizing that they have a duty and an obligation to sell cybersecurity, to learn how to sell it. And if you're going to sell it, please do it profitably. There's not a lot of sense in selling it on razor thin margins. I think most of us learned that lesson 5 years ago during just the plain old managed services. And so by all means, let's learn from our mistakes. Let's learn from the past and make sure that our margins are such that we can continue to potentially add services as the months and years go by. So yeah, I think you encapsulated all of that very, very well.
All right. Well, I very much appreciate you joining me. I'm going to talk now about our product. You're certainly welcome to hang in there. But to those of you in attendance, I would like to share, the threat vector that our offering, our platform provides you as an MSP. And here we are working from home, and my gardener has shown up with his leaf blower. So my apologies if you can hear that. We address data security, data at rest on PCs, phones, tablets, Macintosh, USB storage devices. It is particularly important today, given the work from home phenomenon. I'm obviously working from home. We are, business as usual it has forever changed with the pandemic. While we may go back into the office, a great many of us will be spending more time working remotely, as will your clients' employees. With that comes a loss of visibility, hardware visibility. I have here a laptop, I have a Macintosh desktop model and a desktop PC. Your client has lost some of the visibility on those devices. Compliance has always been a driving factor for products such as ours, primarily with the encryption piece of our offering. Fines, penalties, and audits are there. I think we've been given a little bit of a hall pass with the pandemic. As soon as we get out of it, then they'll probably come back around with more of the audits and examinations. Loss of client custodial data is a problem. Your clients want their data, your clients' customers want their data protected. If it isn't, they will leave your clients as customers. And you have the ability or the very real possibility of reputational damage as a result. Many clients are very concerned about IP loss with designs, code, various intellectual properties. And let's not also forget about the insider threat. Fortunately, a story was conveyed to me a couple of weeks ago. I put this last bullet, a business starter kit. We had an MSP whose client was in the mortgage business. They witnessed a great many of customer lists and processes that are important to their business leave via USB storage devices with 5 employees, 5 who intended to or start a competing business with their very employer. And unfortunately for them, they saw this happening. They were able to, with our product, eliminate that data that had gone out via USB. So these are the risk factors, why Beachhead is a very significant piece to a complete security stack. I wanted to, oops, did I skip something? Oh, quickly about our product, and I try not to spend too much time here. We are first and foremost about the easiest, best approach to manage and enforce encryption. We, by definition, or by recommendation, I should say, layer encryption, 2 different types, a full disk, and also a encryption that is based on the user's profile, which provides additional protection against either external attacks or by somebody within the company with admin credentials. Absolute best protection from an encryption perspective. Also, demonstrable access control that the MSP will maintain with our product, the ability to quarantine, which is to eliminate access and restore access, if appropriate, to the remote user, wherever they may be. You also have the ability of killing stuff, which is sometimes the appropriate response if the drive, the hardware has been stolen. I'll spend just a moment. I want to tell you, many of you have probably heard of us. We are building what we're calling our risk responder. We actually had the name trademark not long ago. It's something we've always done, but we're providing a brand new UI. It's not yet out, but a very easy way by which you can set your risk responders, which are, by definition, predetermined actions that the device will take automatically based on security risks and thresholds that you will set. The thresholds will be easily managed and the responses also easily managed. In some cases, these can be just a dialogue to the user. They can be just simply a log event or a notification to an administrator, or they can actually take action and do something, run a script or quarantine a device. We have and always have had them for consecutive invalid logon attempts. Excuse me, we have them for time-based accesses. So if you've lost visibility of the device, it's for whatever reason not checking in, it'll take action against that risk. We added geofence violations in the most recent release of the product as well. Device travels outside a prescribed perimeter, it'll take action, again, whatever it is that you would like it to do. We have a really outstanding USB storage product that will enforce encryption on any device that has our agent, and an authentication policy. The authentication policy by default is a username and password that is set by the creator of the device. It does have a COM module, so wherever that USB device travels, it will phone home, gives the administrator, the MSP, full visibility on that device where they'll enjoy the same access controls, kill it, quarantine it, whatnot. So very important that, those are probably the most vulnerable piece of information or piece of hardware that's going to be lost or stolen. We protect a wide variety of devices. And also in our last product release, we added two-factor authentication. So that's part of Beachhead Secure today. I just want to show you real quickly reporting. It's paramount that when you are under a compliance mandate where encryption is a safe harbor, you must prove you had encryption in place as of the time of the theft. So our new compliancy report allows you to enter the circumstances of the loss. It's going to report real time where the device was, both from an IP address and a geolocation at the time of the theft, report in detail as to the encryption that was in place, the access controls, whether we were managing the password policies, if you enacted from the administration console a quarantine, what was the definition of quarantine, did it execute? In this particular case, the quarantine was set to wipe the encryption keys, which meant that as of the date that was executed, it would be impossible to access the data on the drive, even to somebody that perhaps stole the password. So again, beyond just the encryption and the compliance piece. And as well, it'll outline the automated defensive actions, what we now call our risk responders. What did it do? Did that execute? When? So the idea here is that, yes, I lost hardware, my client lost hardware, but there was no breach, no reportable breach, and here's why. You have to, as I mentioned, manage encryption. You have to make sure that it's persistent and provable at all times. Our product is, obviously multi-tenant. It's built for MSPs. I did want to point out that as of, I think, December of last year, we've added a commits arrangement. So you can co-managed IT services. You can provide your client, if they have IT chops in-house, access and change control in the administration console. We call it limited rights. They are able to quarantine, they're able to recover from quarantine, they're able to deploy licenses. You, however, as the MSP, as the expert, alone control the policies. So that is your, now you can negotiate with them or have it, determine what it is you'd like it to do under such circumstances, but ultimately that's left to the MSP, and the commits is an option to you. Reporting we talked about, again, protecting against circumstances that encryption can't. And again, encryption is only as good as the password. So if the password is stolen, if the password is with an employee who's no longer an employee or authorized, if the device is stolen with the power on and authenticated, all bets are off. Encryption is doing nothing. So we want full security, and that is to protect against those circumstances as well. The risk responder, again, actively protects your client's data, even when you can't, or when it's not unknown to you. Again, part of a full or comprehensive holistic stack of security services. And as I mentioned earlier in that slide, security is a sticky service. So once they are in a sleeping well, if you will, with a complete set of security services, they're unlikely to give it up. And somebody pointed this out to me. It's something I overlook often. We provide really, really outstanding support for our MSP partners. So we don't even turn you over to our support organization until you're absolutely comfortable with the customer, with the console. There's my leaf blower again. Because we look at support and training as one and the same. When you're ready to, leave the training wheels, then you can go to our support organization. But it's entirely your decision. Okay, real quickly, I'll wrap this up. We have fantastic pricing and have had for licenses added since October of last year for the Robin Robbins organization. Instead of $4 for the premium, which includes the risk responders and the USB storage module, it's $2. You get 20 NFR licenses for your internal use. We don't charge. We want you to be secure. We don't charge our partners for the use of our platform. There's no training or onboarding fee for Robin Robbins organization members. And we encourage you. We've got tons of evaluations out there. We do it. It takes us about an hour to train you, get you comfortable with the console. Some pull the trigger the next week. Others, wait until they have clients or to sign up, and they may be with it for 6 months. You'll not get a call from us, but the evaluation account, fully functional, is set up. And if and when you pull the trigger with Beachhead, that will be your NFR licenses. So it, again, is fully functional. The giving never ends. We're also running what we're calling our COVID-free and have been calling our COVID-free program. When you sign up, you will get 20 free licenses or 20 unbilled by Beachhead licenses per client for 90 days. So you can offer that to your client as a giveaway. You can monetize for it. We don't know. You'll just not get an invoice for those 20 licenses from Beachhead. Really encourage you to at least take up the evaluation account. There is, again, no cost or obligation. My contact information is here. I'd also highly recommend Jennifer with MSP Sales Revolution. Her contact is here as well. And I, of course, have it if you reach out to me. She's fantastic. I think has helped lots of MSPs distinguish their offering by providing a complete set of services. And I'd be more than happy to recommend her. So again, please let me know if Beachhead can be of help. We'd love to do the evaluation with you. It's really just a matter of scheduling it with me. With that, Jeff, I just want to say thank you again to you and to Robin Robbins organization, and to especially those of you who are in attendance here.
Yeah, Cam, and great stuff with this here. How do they, if they want to take advantage of this, and from what I'm understanding here, that they've got a no cost, no obligation evaluation. I know it says that there on the screen. How do they take advantage of that? And is it truly that they can get those 20 NFR free licenses there, evaluate them, use them here just to test out the solution, kick the tires, see what's going on? And if so, do they email you? Do they give you a call? Is there a website?
Yeah, they can do any of the above, Jeff. In fact, I think we have a page on your website as well.
Yep.
They can call me, probably, faster response by calling me from home. I'm in the office like everybody, maybe twice a week now, although I expect to be doing it more often. Generally, what happens, Jeff, is this is kind of a hand-holding training. It's the first training session, if you will. I will, myself or one of my staff, one of the sales engineers, we take about an hour to get the MSP comfortable with the console. We'll get a PC encrypted and under management. And then after we're done with the session, they use the evaluation to their heart's content. Find out if it works for them, of course, and for their clients.
Okay, excellent. Great stuff. I love it when you did two things on here that really help out everyone that's on here, that's watching. One of them, you're making it risk-free, just completely risk-free to be able to test it out. That there's nothing worse than having to sign a long-term contract, sight unseen, and maybe seeing a demo that can easily be made to look simple, but you've really got that ability to do that. And if you decide to go with Beachhead, fantastic pricing. I mean, it's literally half price actually more than half price there for Technology Marketing Toolkit members, those that are watching this. And so you can take advantage of that pricing there just for being a member. And that's something that Cam really wanted to do. He reached out middle to late last year and said, hey, we'd love to really be able to put together a special pricing just for the community here. And again, so it's, take advantage of it, check it out, and then get that pricing of it, or lock that in of that pricing that you have that began in October of last year.
Yeah. No, we love the organization. We've been, a vendor for quite some time. As a matter of fact, it was the first show we ever went to years and years ago. And, Peter Verlaza and Jay Ryerson, some of our original partners. And, don't want to be blowing smoke, but your organization has members that are, enlightened. They understand things a little better than those who are not either a member of your organization or other peer groups. Understand that security is extremely important, not just for the client, but for the MSP as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's become so much more relevant in the last year or so. You see all the stories. You don't want to be that another story that all the other MSPs are talking about when your company has gone down because all of your clients have gone down, and it's a big security risk there. So Cam, I appreciate it. That this was a great session here. Jennifer, thank you so much. If you're still on there, I thank you a lot. Yep, there's Jennifer as well with it. So thank you guys a lot for doing this and putting it, and really looking forward to seeing you coming up at the events in the near future as well.
We'll see you at boot camp.